All right, friends, welcome back again to an episode of Tactical Enlightenment. This YouTube channel is dedicated to all things Bannerlord related, and as you could see here, we have an unusual custom battle series for today's episode. We are going to focus on small battle combat here, small battle tactics. I'm of the opinion that small battle tactics are not majorly impactful. In other words, if you're fighting 70 on 60, you can use some tactics, but I don't find it to be dramatically effective. But that's also a bit of an illusion, and I'll explain that more as I get my units set up here. So I am going to run 6 different divisions here. Actually, I might run 7. We are going to have a skirmisher unit of Battanians. It's Battania. We're playing Battania against Valandia. We're also going to have... so all these guys have javelins. We're also going to have a blocking cav unit, and we're going to have 2 different archer divisions. The first division, as you can see, is kind of a mix of shock and shield and spear. In a perfect world, I'd like to have a shock division with Battania, but it doesn't always work out like that with small troop setups, right? Just because you simply don't have enough units in the shock division to make a major difference. So like I said, we'll have 2 different archer divisions here, the 4th and 5th. Got to assign the 7th, this horse archer, just to get this companion off there. The 4th will be assigned like our best archers. The 2nd will definitely be cav, and we will use them in a defensive manner. And then again, the 3rd division can be a weaker cav line as well. So with this particular battlefield, there's a river, and I'm going to try to defend this. I think there's even a bridge on this river. This is an example, of course, of using terrain in combination with your tactics. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag our units here across this bridge and effectively force the enemy to approach us either over that bridge or through the water. But terrain is always something you should utilize. Now, if you're on the offensive, it's harder, right? Because your enemy then is using the terrain to their advantage, or at least in theory they are. But in this situation, we are defending 70 against 105. So we're actually dramatically outnumbered here. We're dramatically, 50% outnumbered, right? They have 35 more troops than us. But we're going to try to take advantage of the water. We're going to try to take advantage of this little bridge here to constrict the enemy and essentially attack them 1 unit at a time, right? We're going to focus on their cav, then we're going to try to destroy their infantry, and then last we'll just try to destroy their crossbow. Now Valandia has pretty good ranged attack units, but Battania has the best in the game. Right, our Battanian Fiend champs, and we're not going to have very many because we have 70 troops, right? We do have a mix of all the equal troops, everybody except the peasants. So that means we probably have 3 or 4 Battanian Fiend champs and a bunch of 3 or 4 of the scrubbier archers too, right? We're going to have a mix. But this cav line here is just here to slow down the enemy even further, right? We're using the water. I'm trying to shoot their horses out from underneath them because if these guys become dismounted knights, they're virtually worthless. Predictably, they're jamming up on our cav square there. We're not going to drag these guys out of the water because I want them dragged by our archers for enfilade fire, right? Our archers are over here just shooting everything from the side. Now we're going to start kiting back with our archers. And kiting is probably the most effective single tactic you can use in small-scale combat like this. I would define small scale as the kinds you'll fight very early on in a campaign where it's you and your 40 or 50 guys against 60 or 70. Think about like raiding a caravan or something. Alright, their cav is kind of in the midst of our troops here. That's sort of inevitable. It's a little bit messy. That Banner Knight's mowing guys down. We're starting to suffer some losses as that cav division gets eaten alive, but that's okay, right? I mean, one thing that's for sure, in a battle outnumbered by 50%, you're going to suffer major casualties. We're just trying to win. Okay, their main infantry line is coming towards us, so again, we're going to kite back. Part of the reason I'm doing that is our other archer division is working on those guys. Now I've got that 1st infantry division was kind of unbothered, so we're going to bring those guys back here and pinch the enemy infantry. They've got enemy infantry right here. We've got our skirmishers in the face of the enemy infantry, and now I just dragged the other infantry division in behind them. While that's happening, we're going to get these archers out of there. Right? We're going to use this as an opportunity to kite further. That'll give them more distance between the enemy and them, and obviously more distance. That guy looked like he was routing. More distance means they can shoot more arrows before the enemy closes in, right? So now we have lots of heavy cav here pursuing, but we do have enough infantry to fight these guys off. At this stage, it does look like a lot of the Valandian infantry has retreated. Now to deal with these pesky cav. Just like I said, we'll try to deal with them sort of one unit at a time. I'm kiting all the way up into the sort of the hollow between these two rock spaces. And the other major advantage, and the reason I'm doing this, is because their crossbowmen down there have a hard time shooting us from here. Right, they're way across on the other side of the valley there, over the river, and they're not going to be able to shoot this far away and impact the battle dramatically. So we destroyed their infantry. Now we're focusing on their cav. And once they are either diminished or destroyed, we will then focus our attention on their crossbowmen. Now, the other advantage Battania has in a battle like this is the amount of ammunition they have. Crossbowmen, I believe, have 24 or 26 bolts. The Battanian archers especially, all, and I think even the lowest level one, all have 2 quivers. That means we have 40 to 60 something arrows, right? We're going to have a lot more arrows that we can shoot, and so after the crossbowmen run out of arrows, our guys are still going to be shooting. That's a major advantage for us here. I'm now dragging cav to the side of the enemy here. We're going to harass them, and we're going to start advancing our other units. The infantry is told to engage. We're using this little cover area here so that we don't get shot, and we're going to circle in behind the enemy, right? We want to attack the enemy with combined forces. You don't want to attack one at a time, because that's precisely what we did to the enemy there. We basically isolated their units and then sort of fought them one at a time. Now you notice they're also not paying much attention behind them, right? These guys would have a very hard time in prison. You got to watch your back. So our infantry is being told to charge and is approaching them. Our archers are on engage, and what that'll do is that means they'll come up and either shoot, or if they're out of arrows somehow, they will charge. And now we're going to attack these guys from behind with our cavalry. Now I still see arrows flying in, so that means our archers that have arrows left are still shooting. We'll bring our cav up. Now it's only like 6-7 guys, but this is the reality when you're fighting these very small battles, right? You don't have 40 cav to bring in for the final charge. You have 6, you have 7. So our infantry lines are meeting with their crossbowmen here, and we fly in with our cav. Our infantry's charging, and the archers now are shooting down into these guys into the water, right? It's a very bad situation for them. They're getting knocked to the ground by our cav. And this battle, these things will be nice. These are quick battles, right? We'll probably be able to have 3 or 4 of these as part of an episode. And each battle will literally be like 5, 6, 7 minutes. So even though we were outnumbered by 50% here, through kiting and through, of course, funneling our enemy into a narrow spot here, isolating them into separate units, we were highly successful. 24 troops left. This is definitely a huge success. Look at our Battanian Fiends, 26 kills, right? All right, now let's try very similar numbers, and let's try a town defense. Towns can be defended pretty readily, even when you're outnumbered like this by 50%. Again, I find Battania highly effective in this situation here. In fact, I may play around with the other cultures to see if you can pull off these same successes here. This is simulating that our units were near a town and they were attacked by a Valandian force. Right, we're outnumbered again by 35 units, which is 50%. Now, 35 doesn't sound like a lot, but that means if you had an army of 400, you'd be fighting an army of what, like 520 or something like that. It would be dramatic if the numbers were bigger. Because it's small scales, like, you know, if you're attacked 8 on 7 or 8 on 6, you're being outnumbered by 25%. You know, so even though the numerical number that we're outnumbered here doesn't sound like a lot, statistically, on a percentage basis, we're hugely outnumbered. Now I'm going to use these little cow pens here, these little tiny fences. Evidently, the enemy can't go through these, and what I say by evidently is they should be able to. Like any athlete or adult would just be able to step over these or hop over these or whatever. But in Bannerlord, these act like laser beam, ironclad fucking gates that nothing can pass. You can't break them, and with the exception of the occasional horse jump, you can't go over them. Certainly the enemy is not going to be jumping over them with their cavalry. So I've divided my armies here on both sides of this, and we have this little pathway in between. Now this little hole here I'm going to try to sort of fill with our cavalry. When you have a Battanian force like this, where I have a little bit more archers than cav and infantry, you want to protect those archers. And there you can see we're outnumbered 35 to, or 105 to 70. We're outnumbered by a full 50%. The weak archer division we'll put towards the back here. We don't want those guys absorbing damage early on. And then we have 2 infantry divisions. We have a quasi-skirmisher division. That's the 6th. And then the 1st is sort of everything else. Shock troops, shield and spear. When you have small battles like this, it's much more realistic and practical to use less units. I would never use 8 or 9 divisions. Well, you can't use 9, but I would never use 8 divisions in a situation like this with so few units in each division. In fact, a lot of people probably would say 6 is 1 or 2 too many. You could put all your archers together. I would have no problem with that at all. All right, so we're trying to attract attention from their cavalry while our archers go to work. Towards the back there, you see a few of their cavalries attacking our archers, but most of them magnetized to our horse archers or our horse square. Those guys are defending themselves. Now we take advantage of it, right? Our archers are free over here to fire away. We want to try to slow down these knights so that they're just sort of standing still. Now here comes the enemy infantry. We're not going to let them just charge our main units here, right? We're going to kite. We're going to pull these guys back. That buys them time, and it gives, you can actually see the highborn youth on the other side over there are scoring kills. Now their infantry's bearing in here quickly. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to bring some units over here to help confront it. I continue to kite with my archers, even though it's a small distance away, right? I don't want my archers mauled early on in this battle. Now we'll have our archers charge. Our other cav unit is behind them. The infantry can be told to charge, and hopefully that combined force, plus me knocking a few guys around, shooting a few in the back, is enough to take out their infantry. Again, we're outnumbered here, but Battanian archers are more than capable of solid infantry. In fact, you see that guy just slay a sergeant. So the battle technically is already over. We just destroyed their main vanguard with very few losses. Their cavalry has suffered quite a few losses. And again, look what they're attacking. They're attacking our lower level archers and our 2nd cav division, are basically our least 2 important units in this battle. Now the other component here that I haven't really talked about is their crossbow does not have a really good line of sight here. The AI is not very good at setting up its units in situations like this where there's a lot of obstructions. Yeah, their cav just routed as well. So this battle is completely over. We're going to pursue their crossbow here. We'll shoot these knights in the back, these coward knights, acting in a very non-knight kind of way here, running away. And then we will systematically destroy their crossbowmen here. Again, I mentioned before, shit, that should have been death. Don't do that, by the way. You want to get out of there if the guy's charging you with a fucking lance. I'm sure that's highly useful information, right? You guys probably didn't know that. We'll include some less than useful information here. 24 crossbow, and you see they're sort of flicking some bolts in here, but these guys have no chance. You see you can jump a fence, but you have to time it just right, and sometimes you just run into the fence and your mount rears. It's not a good situation for you. Alright, so we'll have some units flank here. We'll bring up units in shield wall, and we will surround and destroy this last little crossbow division here. Again, the battle is won as soon as we destroyed their vanguard with minimal casualties, and we're able to repulse their heavy cav charges. Vlandia has very good heavy cav, but of course in this environment where they can't really get a full head of steam, they're sort of bound up by all the different horse pens. Again, these horses in real life would just fucking run right through you know, those little wooden pens, but this is what we have, right? Evidently they can't here, and so they act beautifully as a way to corral your enemy. Alright, the enemy's right over this ridge. We're going to bring our archers up, and it looks like there's no need. Yeah, that's it. The enemy's fleeing, and this battle was even more demonstrative of the value of tactics on the small scale. We were outnumbered by 50%, and yet we have 67% of our troops survived, right? We basically destroyed the enemy here, and that's because we used the strengths of our kingdom, we used our archer corps, we kited a little bit when necessary, and then we used combined attacks. This is about as dramatic as a small-scale win as you can have. All right, so let's put the shoe on the other foot here. Let's give the Britannians more forces than us. We'll give them 90 and we'll have 100, or excuse me, we'll give them 100 and we'll have 90. And let's make them the defender, right? We'll be the attacker here in the same town. Basically the reverse of the previous situation, only we'll, instead of them outnumbering us, we will outnumber them, right? Even though we're the attacker. This theoretically should be very difficult. This is not something, in fact, I would recommend, is you attack a force that's defending a town with a smaller sized equal force. That's just not a good idea. Nevertheless, we'll give this a shot. I do have some shock troops, so we'll put them in the 6th division. And again, we'll have 2 crossbow divisions here, one a stronger division and one a weaker division. Now, strategically, I plan on using elevation in this battle, right? You notice the town is down below this hill. Well, the enemy failed to use it on us, but what you want to do in this situation is get up on this hill, get some good line of sight, rain some bolts down on the enemy, and try to do major damage before you close in for battle. The other thing we'll do is we'll exhaust all of our bolts on our crossbow, and then we will pull them forward like shield wall infantry. In other words, effectively, we will blow their load like a 16-year-old on this mountaintop, very quickly firing as many bolts as we can, hopefully getting a good line of sight, and then we will use them and turn them into infantry, right? So do some damage, hopefully score some kills at range, and then get some additional kills, or at least defensive protection, by charging in a shield wall. Now, on offense like this, you want to assess your enemy's position, right? You want to find out where they're congregating, what the weakness of their position is, and come up with a plan for it. Right now, they're forming about as bad as a position as they could. They're in a big jumbled mass right in the middle of town with nothing in front of them, nothing to obstruct our view to shoot them. So I've got 2 different cav divisions, and we can move these cav divisions up. You'll see me do this a lot. I'll use cav as screens while we move our units into place. If you just run up here with your archers, or your crossbow in this case, you will get shot full of arrows. You will experience unpleasant things with your army, right? You want to protect your guys as you're moving guys into position. You want to put them in screens, right? These cav are in shield wall. See, I'm moving them very delicately, and we'll move up infantry in shield wall as well. Jump right over their cav here. Try not to get speared off our horse. I'm doing a little bit of fighting in these battles because we're outnumbered. This is not a battle that you should theoretically be able to win. Now, I'm dragging our cav with us here because I'm looking for opportunities. Either necessary times to flank the enemy, or we may use our cav defensively as a screen. We may also use them to attack and isolate their cav division. All right, buying time for our troops again here as we move our crossbowmen into place. And as soon as they're into place, they're going to start releasing a hail of darts into the enemy. In fact, you see the kills starting to rack up. Sharpshooter killed so-and-so. Sharpshooter killed so-and-so. These guys are lethal at range. Meanwhile, we've just got these screens here to protect them against this. The enemy's charging with cav. We don't want them to reach our crossbow, right? We will protect our guys while they're firing away here. Now, they're being shot at, but the enemy has a much worse position. They're down in the valley. They don't have as good a line of sight. Our guys are shooting downhill. They're shooting over guys' shields, and we're causing major damage. Now, I'm gonna pull back here because it looks like the enemy's approaching. Sometimes I'll take a cautious approach, but a lot of times when an enemy's in a defensive position like this and they start to get killed, they charge. So it does look like they're charging us. The number's going down. And they're scoring kills as we make our retreat here, but I think this is still going to be valuable for us. We have a ridge to defend here. They are. They're full on charging us. Now, what I'm doing here with this ridge is basically a peekaboo ridge tactic, right? We're going to limit the ability of their archers to run up and shoot. I want our crossbowmen, these guys here, lined up shooting them as they come over that ridge. That way our guys basically have the initiative on that first volley of bolts. You can hear our guys firing away. They're still scoring kills. And now we're just essentially waiting for the enemy to come over this ridge. I think they're going to. Here comes their Fian champs. Our archers are still scoring kills. We have our infantry here to flank the enemy, right? I'm basically bringing them here because if the rest of their archers come in, we will collapse this infantry division down on them. It looks like it's necessary to do it already. They've got Britannia Fian champs running around here in the middle. We can attack with the cav. Their archers are not moving up. The bulk of their archers are actually back in town, which is about as bad a strategy as they could have done here. First they position bad, now they split their own troops up. They're basically operating like a drunk general here. They have a handful of cav here. In fact, they have more than a handful of cav. They've got a lot of cav, but without archer support, with our position here, we're going to be able to handle these guys. The crossbowmen on charge are now coming up with their shields. That's because they're out of bolts. Just like I said, once these guys ran out of bolts, they become very decent infantry, and they're racking up kills now with their swords. Again, the sharpshooter is a badass unit. We have a whole episode that highlights the value of sharpshooters. It's part of a new series we're developing, and I encourage people to check it out. So the rest of their archers are moving up now, but these guys, they were late to the party. Now they're going to get a rude welcome to the party here. We're going to be able to focus all of our attention on these archers. I've got this cav train following me. We've got infantry that are still healthy. We've got crossbowmen that look like they still have ammo. I see them, crouching down and doing whatnot. That's the typical sign that they're reloading their bolts. And we're just going to pick off these cav here until the enemy comes over this ridge, right? We're not in a hurry. We are the attacker, but unfortunately the enemy chose to take the offensive, even though we were the attacker. It's a very bad strategy. Now here they come. They're kind of in a piecemeal mess. So the infantry is told to charge. The cav divisions are told to follow me because I want to drive these guys right through their asses. We can kill some Battanian fiends. Do a little weaving to make sure they don't shoot us off our horse. The cav is now trouncing through their archers. Infantry is told to charge. Our archers are told to charge. That way they get up here, and this should go very badly for the enemy. Starting to rout. This Battanian Fiend here is trying to hold out. Their best unit gets shot right in the gut, and this battle is over. So in this situation here, we basically reversed the previous battle where we defended the town, and even though we were outnumbered here, it's a complete massacre. Now, admittedly, the AI brutalized the tactics in this battle, but that's the name of the game, right? You're usually going to be fighting against the AI. Yeah, I mean, 52 surviving out of 90, that's an extraordinarily good rate of success. All right, let's do one more battle here for this episode, in particular episode, and now we will play Valandia against the Empire. I'll just choose some random map here, and again, a normal-looking Empire force with all the normal troop trees selected. Same thing with us, everybody but the recruit for both sides, and this kind of roughly simulates an army you would face. Now we're going to have, give about 90, 88 to 101 here. That is a reasonably difficult challenge, and of course we'll play the attacker here. Again, this theoretically should be very difficult. Now we'll see what the enemy AI does here, right? Artificial imbecility is kind of the name of the game. Now it's not hapless. If you auto-resolve this, or if you just give the captains in charge of this, you're going to lose, right? You still have to use tactics here. You have to use your brain, but I think we're still going to be victorious here. As before, you're going to see me have two different crossbow divisions. Each time I've got to select the horse archers to a different division because of this dipshit companion. We'll have a heavy division for the 4th. That's going to be our best crossbowman. Then we'll have two different cav divisions. The 2nd is typically our attacking, stronger cav, and the 3rd plays defense. So again, 6 total divisions, and I know some people might balk at that. You're certainly welcome to try this with 4 or 5, but I think especially if you're using squares, if you're using cav and shield wall lines, it makes a lot more sense to have more units. If you have one archer division, you can't separate those archers, right? If they get attacked and mauled by infantry or cav, you're fucked. If you have 2, you can physically prevent the enemy from attacking one while the other one's getting attacked, right? You can basically split them up, and then of course the unit that's being attacked, the other unit hopefully is shooting at the people attacking the other unit. Obviously, that the other advantage of like Valandia is you can form a square with crossbow where they're highly defensible, while the other crossbow unit pounds the enemy that's attacking your square. Alright, so our 2 different cav divisions, we're going to move up here like you see me do a lot of times. We're doing this to screen, right? Marshal Murat of the Napoleonic era was famous as the cavalry commander in Napoleon's army, and he was famous for screens. We're going to use screens here a little differently in Bannerlord. We're doing this to attract enemy attention, to absorb arrows, to limit cav charges, etc. Okay, the enemy is selecting and putting their forces in a very abysmal position. They're just kind of down in this valley awaiting the onslaught. So we will set up our archers here. They're haplessly charging me with cav. We will set up our crossbow rather to rain down arrows into the valley here and try to kill their... If their cavalry charges, we'll happily bait and kill them too. Look at this little place. I guess this is a XIII town. All right, so the enemy cav is charging. That's good, right? What they're effectively doing is attacking 15, their 15 cav against our army of 88, right? This is not a good result for them. They, of course, should be attacking in unison. They're not, so we'll take advantage of that, right? These crossbow get put into a square until the enemy retreats. Then they can be told to spread out and fire away. And it's a big advantage that the sharpshooter has, is the ability to be defensive 1 minute or 1 second and then attacking the enemy a second later. Now we've got our cav here kind of intermingled with their cav. And what are we doing? We're attacking the enemy with our cav here and our crossbow at the same time. Now if our calves start to get too close to the enemy, we'll simply pull them back. I'd like our crossbow to get a little closer to the enemy archers here, so we're going to start to sort of move up on this flank, up on this side. We will maintain this elevation advantage, and we're going to fire some bolts down into the enemy's position. Again, advantage, you know, the person that's using terrain, there's a major advantage. You get more distance on your bolts, they do more damage, better line of sight, etc., etc. The enemy has to run uphill to approach you. The advantages are legion. Holy fuck. Just got stabbed for 2/3 of my health. Alright, this guy, if I get dropped, I have the RTS mod to keep playing. Alright, now you can see our best crossbow division is here just lighting up the enemy, right? These guys are absolutely firing away from this protected position. Now the enemy cav is attacking our cav here right in front of our infantry. We charge, right? Our infantry is told to charge. And at a minimum, that's going to chase the enemy cav out of here. If they stay, though, they're going to get killed. Right, that guy just got clobbered by a fucking Volgier. I killed a guy. The enemy, okay, they're breaking out of their defensive posture, right? And so what are we going to do here? We're going to kite. You've seen me do this before. We're moving our units back. And the reason we're doing that is that we're buying time to reposition. We're buying time while our crossbow units pound the enemy. And we're pulling them in, right? We're basically baiting them into a situation where we're going to kill them. They've gone from defense to offense, and so we're switching our tactics. Trying to spread this crossbow division out. We've got a cav division here is in really good shape. The enemy still has some cavalry, but we're going to be able to counter it now. And you'll see me do this a lot. We will do drive-bys with our calves. We're not making a direct assault on the enemy. We don't want to lose a bunch of cav, but I'm slowing them down. We're going to knock a few guys to the ground. We're going to skewer a guy occasionally. Meanwhile, our archers are working, right? They're firing away. Their vanguard is pouring in here on our infantry. That's fine. We will square and pull our square back. Now that that square is moving back, that means the enemy is attacking a square and being shot by crossbow. Meanwhile, our cav was told to charge behind the enemy. Some of these moves I have to tell you after the fact because I simply can't talk that fast, otherwise you wouldn't be able to understand it, right? I have to explain what I'm doing in a speed that you'll understand. All right, so now their archers are moving up, but we've got their vanguard in a bad way, and I can position a cav unit right in front of their archers to basically eat a lot of those arrows. I'd rather their arrows were hitting our cavalry and the shields and horses than mowing down our sharpshooters. So our sharpshooters are told to join the battle here because there's a giant scrum right in front of them. And now we're going to drive our cav right through the enemy archers here, right? At first they were a defensive screen. Now we're just going to drive these angry heavy horse through here. It's interrupting. You see their crossbowmen are like chasing after us and shit like that. We're going to suffer losses here. It's a lot of archers. But these guys, we're just essentially buying time for the rest of our forces to come down here and maul the enemy. And this is certainly a situation at this stage where F1 and F3 is appropriate. The enemy's down to one strong division. You want all of your units bearing down on that division at the same time. You're going to have losses. Like, that's just the thing. But we don't want them to buy any time. The same way we were buying time for our archers, we want to take their time, right? We want to close quickly and prevent these fucks from shooting. At this stage, it's largely a formality. Of course, their troops are a combination of routing and or being attacked by our concentrating forces. And even though we're outnumbered here, we have way more troops that are now standing than they do. I'm getting owned here. So let's see, switch weapons. I don't normally fight, and I look about as bad as I possibly can here. In fact, I get dropped. So it's hard for me to look worse than I did right there. But tactically, this battle is over, right? Apart from my ignoble failure there as a sword cavalryman, this is another resounding victory for us for this series. So let me know what you think of this series, right? We may do a few more of these small-scale battles. I may play around a little bit more. In fact, I can freely tell you at this stage that I tried about 7 or 8 of these small-scale battles that didn't work out very well. I tried an all-Sturgian force against the enemy here, where they outnumbered us, and I wasn't able to achieve victory. So we'll play around with a few more of these, and we'll try to show tactics in small-scale situations. If you want to see more of this, if you want to see more of the channel, please subscribe and like and all that kind of good stuff. And I will talk to you, friends,